Despite being the kind of guy who likes to buy every new console at launch, I have yet to dive into the new world of virtual reality. I've largely taken a wait-and-see approach, choosing instead to focus on the overwhelming selection of games designed to be played on my television. But as it turns out, I may not be ready for VR, but VR is definitely ready for me. You see, developer Rocket Studios doesn't care if I own a headset or not, because they've decided to bring Elevator to the Moon to the Switch, and the results are decidedly mixed. Yeah, apparently some things are better left kept in virtual reality. When I first heard the name Elevator to the Moon, I anticipated three things: an elevator, the moon, and an adventure with a goofy sense of humor. In that sense, this new Switch game does not disappoint. It's a silly story where you're chosen by the president to be the first to travel to the moon via a lengthy and extremely dangerous elevator ride. This game chronicles everything it takes to get to the moon, from assembling the elevator to dealing with the unforeseen problems involved with space travel. Like I said at the top, this is a port of a VR game. Of course, you don't need me to tell you that, because everything about this game makes that fact blatantly obvious. This is the type of game where you stand in a small, enclosed area and rotate around the room, picking up items and solving puzzles. The adventure is split into 4 separate chapters, each with their own set of point-and-click challenges to work through. This involves scouring the room for items and using them to get yourself out of and into trouble. As a VR game, all of these decisions make complete sense. This is an adventure game that realizes that you can't move around very much, so instead they make it so all you have to do is turn around and interact with familiar items. But as a Switch game, Elevator to the Moon feels like it came from another planet. This is not the way we normally control point-and-click adventure games, and some of the decisions they make in bringing it to consoles is a little off-putting. Instead of being immersive, this Switch version comes across as being simple to a fault. Now, the one thing that kept me invested in the adventure was the story. Rocket Studios has done a good job of fleshing out this world and the characters in both obvious and subtle ways. I like how much we learn about the sitting president Doug Slater Rockmire, a cartoonish hero best known for single-handedly destroying an asteroid that would have wiped out civilization as we know it. He also has a goofy accent that sounds a lot like PewDiePie doing an impression of Arnold Schwarzenegger. There's also a fun computer antagonist named Vita, who takes control of the elevator and blows cigarette smoke through the TV's speakers. These two are a lot of fun to listen to, and their fight is both entertaining and educational. There's more going on to the story than initially meets the eye. But no matter how good the chemistry is between Rockmire and Vita, it doesn't change the fact that this game doesn't work all that well outside of virtual reality. It comes across as a first-person adventure game where you can only walk 2 or 3 steps in any direction. In fact, I don't think it would change a single thing if they just got rid of the walking mechanic entirely. I suspect a lot of the fun of this game is poking around the elevator and seeing what you can interact with, but most of that charm is lost when all you're doing is pressing a button. No matter what controller or setup you end up using, it's just not the same on the Switch. Another problem is that the game is extremely short. I beat it in around an hour and a half, and that involved watching both endings. Part of the reason for this is because the puzzles are extremely simple. Remember, you're stuck in a single room and only have a few cabinets to search, so everything you need is within arm's reach. I have to imagine that, much like everything else in this game, the puzzles are a lot more fun in virtual reality. I know I keep repeating that point, but there's no way around the problem. The gameplay loses something important when all you're doing is pressing a button on a control pad. The fun of this game is picking up items, investigating the elevator, and feeling like you're immersed in this virtual world. You get none of that in this port, and the result is a short adventure game that feels entirely out of place on the Switch. While it may be a great escape room style puzzle game in virtual reality, Elevator to the Moon loses a lot of its charm on the Switch. It's an all too brief adventure with only 4 levels filled with simplistic puzzles. The quality writing and goofy scenarios aren't enough to make up for the stiff gameplay and repetitive environments. The elements that make this game fun in virtual reality end up working against the Switch port every step of the way. I'll be honest, it makes me fearful of future VR adaptations. This is not the way this game was intended to be played. Hey, thanks for watching our review. If you like what you saw here, then you should know that we post new reviews and features almost every day. Now here's the question I have for you. Do you want to see virtual reality games adapted to standard televisions? And do you think this kind of port can be done well? Let me hear your thoughts in the comments below. In other news, I still have a lot of reviews to get through this week, so I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then,